All right, welcome back to Off the Record, first podcast. You made it. Tanner's looking at me, laughing like I did something wrong. We'll get better at our intro as we go.
That was great.
Take 5 on the intros. We're here, and we are excited.
So stoked.
We're here, and we're ready to roll.
Going to talk about our week a little bit, what's been going on. We did an off-location shoot. Always fun.
Very fun. Love it. Packing up
Always
all the
a good time.
gear, unloading, getting all set up, and then room noise.
Don't bring up the room noise.
Yeah.
We can't talk about the room noise. It's still a bad topic.
Jack said, hey, this room has a beautiful image. And I said,
And
the
it did.
furnace.
I'll show it. We can't show the audio, but I'll gladly show how nice the image looks.
I said that furnace right there might be distracting if we're trying to get audio.
It's an air conditioning unit.
And then when we got back, it indeed was really loud. But that's all right.
It would have been fine if the freaking DJI mics would have worked.
No.
But they didn't work. Oh,
Still
it wouldn't have
would've
been
been
fine.
Mm-hmm. It's
Yeah.
okay.
It would have been sort of okay.
It would have been better.
Would have been better. It's okay. You live and you learn. That's off location. We don't get to do that very often, but doing it more and more. And
DJI sucks.
DJI, unreliable.
Very.
Yeah.
And then the video that you sent yesterday of the guy wearing 2 DJI mics
Yeah.
just shows how
Do you think
unreliable
that's more of
they
like
are.
I feel like that was like it's a funny thing that captures maybe someone's attention and gets you to watch the video more?
No,
Or do
I
you
think
actually
he-
think it's like a
No, I think he-
redundancy thing?
I think he lost audio multiple times and is doing it twice.
That's great.
We're talking about somebody on TikTok was wearing 2. We're talking about the DJI wireless mics, and we've had like multiple times them not work. And yesterday we saw a video, and the guy was wearing 2. It comes with 2, and he was wearing them so that he wouldn't lose
What's
his
so
audio.
funny is that it's like if you're, yes, technically, if one of the mics goes out, then you're screwed. But they go to the same receiver. So if the receiver connection is bad, then it doesn't. Like I wonder
They
if
both
he
still
thinks.
wouldn't
I
work.
wonder if he thinks
Internally.
they record internally.
They
Yeah.
record internally. So they're supposed to record internally, and we did the whole project, and the whole entire time
Do you think
I
he
was
knows that, though?
recording internally. I would hope that he knows that.
It'd be really funny if the red recording light on the things aren't even on. And he's like, "Why? I keep losing audio. I have 4 DJI mics on me, and they're not recording."
This
And
never
it's just-
works. So I thought I was recording all day, and I got back and plugged it in to offload it, and there was no audio. So good example, right out the gates.
They're not red.
Yeah, they're not red.
They might not be recording.
They're not even on. They would
Not even using
be
the audio.
green if they were on.
It's just like he just keeps putting more DJI mics on his.
It's like weirdly.
I bought 40 of these, and none of them are working. That's such a niche joke. Holy shit! That's
Very-
so bad.
Well, I'm trying to make a point from it that it didn't work, and so you need to run backups. So lesson learned.
Luckily, that was our backup, so we were using a boom mic.
Yep. Sad day, and we can't show you the work because we signed NDAs. So honestly,
It could be Nike. It could be NASA. It could be President Joe Biden.
it
You'll
could
never
be
know.
not even real. It
The
could be
job could
fake.
have not happened.
I definitely think the job happened. I remember feeling the anxiety of it. I remember the feeling of
Jack
it.
was the big DP.
Big day for old
did.
Jackie.
He did a
DP,
good
that's
job.
me.
98 Studios, which is our studio, if you can see right here, Off the Record by 98 Studios. We're going through a rebrand right now. Got the first revision back this week. Looks awesome.
Yeah, we're excited. It's looking good.
Yeah, it looks really nice. 2 options to go with. I want to show them so that we could see what people think, but we can't. You can't see it yet, but you
Confidential.
will see eventually.
You'll see in August,
Possibly.
possibly. That's the
Hopefully.
goal. Goal is August for the rebrand. Excited for that. And kind of a slow week this week. We recorded a couple podcasts, but not much other than that. So we
Lots
can
of editing and figuring out business stuff.
Lots of business stuff.
Finances, you know,
Hate finance.
the 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out branding for Kolme and Kolme's website. Have we talked about Kolme?
No,
Haven't
this
talked
is the
about
first episode.
This is the first. Well, I guess yeah. Jeez. Kolme. Kolme, our wedding division.
Hard
98,
launch
yeah.
Kolme right here.
Hard to launch on Kolme.
Starting a wedding business.
If you want us to film, photograph,
Or audio
Pick up
tape.
pick up some room noise.
just a random audio of the day, we're your guys.
Kolme
Kolme weddings.
headed straight into weddings. They said it can't be done. Said it was the hardest thing to do.
And what does Kolme stand for?
We don't care. Kolme is the
peak.
peak or summit, and it also means the number 3 in what was the
And
language?
cumulative.
And
Cumulative.
a different spelling also means cumulative.
Tomato.
Can't remember what the spelling or what the language was. Like
Finish.
Finish.
I think it's finish. Means 3 in finish, and we have no finish. Well, I haven't done 23 in May.
I have. I'm mostly white.
Well, I might be
Irish.
finished.
Broadly northeastern European.
Beautiful.
Don't know what that
Western
means,
European. It just means white, pretty much. British.
Jack's white.
British and maybe a little Irish.
very cool.
The
Irish.
biggest reason was Kolme sounds like a cool name, and that's okay to just say
That's
this
right.
is a cool name.
We
And
like it.
We like it. So look for that in your wedding list.
Utah Bride.
And
Utah
all the
Bride
vendors.
Mag.
We're,
That's our goal this year is to be in Utah Bride Mag.
We're going to be in Utah Bride. And a florist actually just talked to me and said if we give her business cards, she does a ton. She's like, I'll hand them out, which is
Really?
Yeah, she's huge.
Oh, heck yeah. Let's order some Kolme business cards.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Tanner's really excited about it too. He was the one that brought it up to us and said, I have really been wanting to photograph weddings and just be a part of that person's special day. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And if
Still
you
get
don't
that to this day.
know our humor yet, that is not true. Tanner did
Pretty much
not.
everything that I say will be sarcastic. So
Get used
As
to
I-
it.
yeah, so I still am not really 100% on board with the whole Kolme weddings, but
But I already
It's-
paid $75 for the LLC, so
well,
And
Guess you're
$25 a month for the Squarespace website.
and you're responsible for
perfect.
30% of the taxes. So
great.
welcome.
Suck it up.
Welcome to Kolme.
Guess we'll figure it out. That's what we do.
Speaking of businesses and starting Kolme, you should probably know how we started 98 and what we're doing and how we became full-time content creators, which we hate that title.
Creatives is better.
Creatives,
Yeah.
multimedia production company. It all means the same thing. It just means we're in a creative space where we get to do a lot of different things with video, audio, and photography. And then it's become way more than that. Just kind of want to dive in and talk about each of us and how we started and why we do what we do, which is a big one, and what we're about. I listened to a podcast last week with Corey Sistrunk on Live Life by Design. Check it out. And he said, instead of asking people what they do, you should ask people what they're about. Thought it was
Wow.
very cool. So
Love
today we're going to tell you what we're about and not really in depth of like what we're actually doing every day. That will come up, but kind of this base one, just know a little bit more about us personally and why we started 98.
Okay. How about we start with what we were doing before we started 98?
Right before I came into working with you guys here at 98, I was working in the medical field or something similar, and I did not like it. It was not fulfilling for me, and so I decided that I wanted to do something that I was more passionate about and something that I cared about for a long time beforehand. So I started doing freelance stuff with you guys, and then
Photography, in case anyone's wondering.
freelance photography. And at the beginning, it was a little weird because I wasn't part of the studio. I was just freelancing for you guys, but
You were
yeah,
getting paid. Freelancing.
in a roundabout way.
Freelancing usually means not getting paid.
Yeah. So, anyways, I came in, was working with them for a few months, and then we discussed switching up ownership percentages and me coming in as like a partner with you guys.
True.
And so, yeah. And before that, I got a camera when I was like 12 and was doing all sorts of like nature and landscape photography in high school and junior high and stuff like that. So I've always been very passionate about it. And that led me to being here.
And we love having you.
And we love you.
Thank you.
Zach, where do you want me to go?
I can go. I was doing audio just on the side. My background is music. So recording musicians, recording myself, started in bands and then couldn't afford studio time. So built my own studio and was doing that part-time for some corporations and just freelance stuff. And then was working random odd jobs that I also hated. Plumbing, delivery stuff, FedEx for a couple of years. Go FedEx. Support your local delivery.
They have a hard life, man.
Prime Day just happened.
Prime Day.
Leave out
Jameis
goodies.
is not ready.
Leave out goodies for
Little goodie treats. Did you like that when they would give it out? That's kind of nice, actually. Sorry,
when you get a water bottle left on a doorstep when it's 105 degrees outside, change your life. That's the little things.
Love your shipping, guys. We need that.
We need the support. So just doing a bunch of odd jobs that I didn't like, but wanted to make that music full time. And 98 went down a different path than that, but that is kind of where I was before 98 started.
Yeah.
I was focused on audio production.
Me.
And Jack.
Okay.
Where was Jack?
Where was I? What was I doing? I was living with my parents. I had just quit Vivint, and this is a funny story. I didn't hate my job at Vivint, but I really do not like desk jobs. We're just in a cubicle. They suck. And so terrible. I told my boss that I got a fake job in like media production so that I didn't have to like admit that I just wanted to quit. I literally had a meeting with him. I was like, I got a big job in media production. I'm sorry. I have to take this opportunity.
Hey.
And
you just didn't tell him when the opportunity was happening.
Exactly.
It's just a couple of years down the road.
It's just a little fortune telling. So anyway, so I quit Vivint, and then pretty soon after, one of my friend's dads owns a production company that produces some TV shows here in Utah, and I started as a assistant editor and kind of like a DIT, if you know what that is. It's like like asset management and stuff like that. And so I started as that for them, and that was crazy because I'd never touched Premiere. The only like editing software I'd ever touched was iMovie, which isn't even, I wouldn't even consider that an editing software. It's just,
but those are
just
still
exists.
on iMovie.
Yeah.
Keep on trucking through.
Love iMovie. Yeah. I actually quit iMovie. Go straight to DaVinci. It's all that matters.
There you go.
And so, yeah, so Damien is his name, and he taught me pretty much everything I needed to know to get started in editing Premiere and stuff like that. But I'd always wanted to do more of like behind the camera work. So like sometimes I would go on set and I would film, and that was really fun. That was exciting for me, but I really hated working. I didn't hate, but editing is a process, and DIT specifically, like downloading assets and making 3 copies of everything and like organizing files. It's not creative at all. It's very, very straightforward and very important, but also sucks. And so I don't know. It was like I had wanted to do actual production for a long time and wanted to film and kind of go through that. And so anyway, met Zach, started 98, and
which just means we sat down on a laptop and made an LLC.
Yeah.
It's really
It's
that
not
easy.
even real. Rocket Lawyer, baby. Actually, we used Rocket Lawyer for a fake
operating
agreement, and
it's real. Just doesn't have like, if something were to really happen in the business
A
that
lawyer
didn't
would
exist,
laugh.
I'd be like, well,
Well, the lawyer did laugh.
Our current lawyer is like, this is insane. This is nothing.
he said, good thing you guys are nice and there wasn't any problems till you found me, because this is a joke.
This is not a real thing. And so anyway, so then the kind of the first thing that I think we dived into was podcast, just kind of like the easiest thing to get it, not the easiest thing to get into, but naturally audio and video and kind of just like podcasts. That makes sense. I filmed a music video for Zach, so there's that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Freelance. No pay.
freelance, no
I paid
pay.
him, paid him $100.
Oh, there you go.
My dad said
Really?
when I was younger, any job was worth $100. And
Any
so
job was worth $100.
Wow.
anytime someone asked me to do something, or I ask someone to do something and they don't charge me, I pay them at least $100.
There you go. Moral of the
First time
story: videographers are only worth $100.
Also, Tanner has helped me many times. I haven't paid him, but if you,
But I know Tanner better.
but Tanner's my friend, so I only give him lunch.
I give him hugs and kisses, and that's his payment.
No, but it was fun we like stayed up till 3 a.m. Tanner, were you with us for that?
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah.
So it was interesting because I had reached out to Jack. I wanted to do a music video for a new song that was coming out, and it was getting late, and it was like 9 or 10, and we had this idea to be driving I had an Audi at the time with a sunroof, and
Sick.
we wanted to, I know, it's
Miss that car.
sad times. You have to get rid of your car when you start a business. But I had a very nice car, and I wanted to be sitting on it on one of the main roads where we live, and we would get pulled over and I'd get in trouble if we were doing that. So the idea was that Jack was going to be in a car outside
Next.
following me on this main road, and I was going to be playing guitar on top of my Audi, and Tanner was driving.
I was driving the Audi.
Yeah, and Tanner was driving it.
Good
So that was like the first like
times.
super creative thing that we
Yeah.
did. So I thought it was cool that we didn't really know Jack at that time, but he's like, okay, that's fine. Let's go and like film that part at like 2 a.m.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was fun.
Which,
It was a good time. And then we went through a basement that was super creepy.
yeah,
But it turned out cool. I was looking at that. I'm like, damn, that was fun. Like we shot that on my A7 III, I think. And
Yeah.
I had a Ronin at the time. And yeah, just went into a bunch of debt, buying a bunch of cool camera gear. And so I was like, let's use it.
it's just different when you meet somebody and they're like, I have a camera and let's do this. And then when a time thing happens or it's too much work, that's where you find, oh, this person
Yeah,
is actually
yeah.
really passionate about it. Like, let's go make this happen. I don't care how much time it is. I don't care if I'm
Yeah,
not getting
yeah,
paid. Like,
totally.
you didn't come to us and say, okay, well, you have this time to this time to make this happen.
Yeah.
And these are the restraints. It
Imagine
was,
that would have been so funny. Okay, guys, so here's my proposal. It's going to cost $4,000, and you can only book within these times.
which is where a lot of people, if you went and booked them, would be if they didn't want to be collaborative on it.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was cool to see like the work ethic is there, that you want to like make it happen with us,
Yeah.
as well as let's be creative together. And then there was another shot that we did up the canyon from where we live in a tunnel, and the idea was me walking through the tunnel, which the speed limit's like 85 and it's
Yeah.
around a bend, so
You just have cars.
really no one can be there. And I'm pretty sure that was filmed on the
Mm-hmm.
same night. It didn't work out in the video, but we did that, and that was like, by that time it was like 3 a.m.
Yeah, didn't
Yeah.
quite know
So-
my camera settings quite yet, and so that didn't look very good. Lots of noise,
Hey, but that's all right.
and then we did a cool shot here actually at the house because people have been using this space to shoot like photo shoots. So there was a white backdrop here,
yeah,
and
yeah.
there were the RGB lights here,
Yeah.
and so we set up RGB lights and filmed you and Sabrina, his wife, like doing with like these cool shadow work and like.
yeah, because I
And that was so sick.
had a smoke machine too from
Yeah.
Performance, and
So we set up the smoke, and it was like, yeah, that looks so cool.
It just was like a full night of
Just creative.
We didn't know what people could do, what
Yeah.
they couldn't do. The ideas just came, and that was like, oh, we're just gonna figure out whatever. Looking back,
Such a good time.
yeah,
Times.
you miss sometimes we don't get to do stuff like that anymore.
I know. It's weird when you first start getting paid for like your work, you start to get this like, I don't want to do anything free because it's like I could be getting paid this, but free work is, I know that's such a weird thing to say, but free work is so important. If you don't, you're just never going to get like any
that's where you get to
portfolio.
Yeah, and that's where you get to like practice your creative.
Yeah, be creative. Because as soon as you're getting paid, the client has expectations and they have
they're not your expectations.
Exactly. Yeah. And so you can't just like, I mean, if they really trust you, you can go however you like with it. But most of the time they have a vision and you communicate that vision. There's creativity there. But yeah, when it's free work, it's like, I gotta have total reign over this. So
I think free work mostly, we've been in some situations where it's not, but free work like that is for yourself.
totally.
Yeah.
And prioritizing yourself in this job is sometimes hard.
Yeah.
But you need to build that portfolio or else no one, like, you, unless you don't really love it,
Yeah, totally.
like, you can forget quickly that it is fun.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
can do those things. And we have all the gear to, like, still
that.
do really cool
Yeah.
stuff.
Probably cooler shit now too. Like, much cooler stuff.
Yeah, we could pull off a like pretty big short film.
Yeah,
at,
100%.
at what we have now.
Yeah. And so it's, just important to keep that going. And when it's with another creative, I think that kind of free work is fun. It feels for yourself. It feels like it's for yourself. Or if you're just doing it yourself, like you're shooting a spec ad or something like that, then that makes sense. If a company is like asking you to do free work just because they can't afford it, that's a different thing.
That's different. Yeah, and you can still take those opportunities, but that is different
Yeah.
than what we're talking about because that person still has expectations, but they're not paying, and there's miscommunication usually, and they're like wanting a lot of stuff done. Be careful with free work for someone that just doesn't want to pay.
Exactly.
That's a different thing than doing free jobs.
Yeah, and that's a bigger conversation that we can have at a later time with someone who knows what they're talking about.
Yeah, so we haven't really figured that out,
Yeah,
but we're
no,
aware
100%.
of it, and that's the first step. When 98 started, we all were still working
Yeah.
our jobs. So
Yeah, those jobs that we all just mentioned, we were still at those jobs.
we were still doing them for a year of 98. Tanner was not full-time.
Yeah, during that year was when I wasn't with 98 at all. I was just like helping out sometimes as a friend.
Mm-hmm.
And
He took our website photos.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd help out with a bunch of stuff. And he was just on a different path that was, it could have been a career. And
Although I was there for the initial 98 meeting at your
True.
house.
and the business plan.
Been here since the beginning. Took
First
a right turn while they went left.
I know.
Was at that business meeting, said, holy shit, this is crazy.
This is not going to work out.
I'll wait for you guys to get this all
really
buttoned up.
figured out.
Yeah.
No,
It took a year.
it took about a year, and we did our job, and then this. If you're in this job, it's okay to be doing something else and this
Yeah.
job.
Oh, essential. I feel like you
Yeah,
can't.
you
yeah.
feel-
if you
feel like
jump
you
right
have
into
to.
this, you're gonna get so overwhelmed by the fact that you can't pay your bills that you're gonna hate creative work.
I just think people talk about the risk, and they're like, "Well, if you're not willing to risk it," and I think that there's risk and calculated risk.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
that is different in what we're doing. Like
Yeah.
we took the risk to say we're willing to work a full-time job and then another full-time job to not be able to do as many
that is
family and
risky.
friend stuff.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I think that is risky. Is to I think side hustle. It's just like a side hustle. Like you do your side hustle, and it just is calculated, like you're saying. Like you're like, is this gonna work? Is this a good idea? And then something happens. You're like, okay, this is actually enough money for me to be like, let's go full bore at this.
Yeah.
And then
And funny enough, it wasn't enough money,
it not even kind of enough money.
but it was an idea that we came up with in the room that we were gonna do creative stuff for our full-time job, and that was the path that we were trying to go down. And there were clients interested in us
yeah.
at a time
Yeah.
that, okay, well then let's give this everything.
Yeah.
But if you just quit your job tomorrow and say, I'm going to be a creative, there are so many avenues, and there are so many things that you don't realize starting a business
Costs a lot of
Oh
money.
my gosh. Yeah.
that
So
we're
many.
still figuring out.
Yeah.
there's the creative side to the business, and then there's the business side to the business, and trying to merge those two to actually work is like still a challenge for us.
Yeah.
We were doing a podcast called Today's the Day.
Yeah.
And the business was still, we were doing full-time jobs early in the morning. And then I would get here by 2 and we'd record that. And then we used that work as portfolio work to say, we can do this for other corporations. The idea, that was a bad voice crack. Sorry for that.
For corporations.
For corporations. The idea was that we could put people on retainer. So
Yeah.
I think that that's important. Whatever our
Love a retainer.
yeah, whatever we were doing, it's hard to know if it's working if you get fired from each thing.
Yeah.
So we were setting it up in a way where we were really making sure that we had clients that were sticking around with us on retainer. Podcast was that idea. So we're not super passionate about podcasts, but it was a great business side that's still creative that allowed us to do what we wanted to do.
And I think this is a side note, but a little peek into the future. I think we realized that podcasts are super creative. I struggled a lot in the beginning being the podcast guys because I think podcasts are really cool, but it is like the lowest of the totem pole when it comes to media. Like there's podcasts, there's ads, there's TV, and then there's like film.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I was like, podcasts is just like everybody has a podcast. Anybody can do a podcast, but it's like, I think we realized like, no, not everybody can do a podcast really well. Like, yeah, you can get a mic, but you will either get on the mic, not know what to do, get really uncomfortable in front of the camera. Like it is hard, and it is a really authentic way to tell a story. So that's a little off the record, if you will.
Wow. Very cool.
Smooth.
But anyway, yeah. So we started with Zach, and it was
And it went really well.
it went super well. He was a great first podcast because he kind of had a following of around this like today's the day aspect already a little bit, and
it just fell into place and worked well. And a good note also is that Zach was there when I asked him like 6 or 7 times to start this with us, and he said yes eventually. But Zach is still with us and still has weekly shows come out. So I think that if you can build this idea and really figure it out, is that we were planning on not really having churn, and there wasn't going to be turnover of the clients. So the next one after Zach was Vivint.
Yeah. So Zach helped us get a job at Vivint that was not even kind of close to podcasts. It was just creating. We did podcasts for them, and we did actually a few podcasts for them, but it was also creating like content for them, like for their sales teams.
Yeah.
Premiere.
And I think it's good to be authentic to what was happening. We signed a year contract for $50,000.
Crazy.
And I remember exactly where I was and telling Sabrina, everything's going to be okay. Everything's taken care of. We just signed a contract for 1 year for $50,000, and I'm quitting my job. And I quit my job.
Yeah.
And
Crazy.
that is wild because
$50,000 is nothing.
that is not
No money.
that is not anything.
That sounds like a lot of money to make as a singular person.
Yeah.
For a business, it's truly nothing.
Yeah.
Like it was a lot at the moment.
we had come from hourly jobs our whole lives.
Yeah.
And
So
so
to just like get not handed, but just like all of a sudden have this contract that was like you're going to get this amount of money was crazy.
and I think
such
the
a surreal
biggest
moment.
feeling was you created something that to a person that didn't know me was worth $50,000.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And that was enough for me to say,
Yeah.
I'll figure out how to do
Totally.
this.
Yeah. That was I feel like, you have that moment. A lot of creators have that moment where someone is willing to pay what you actually think the project or what you're worth. Someone's actually willing to pay it.
To be fair,
And
that
it's a
is
very
what we
surreal
bid
moment. Yeah, that is what we
at. Bid it at 50, not knowing what we should have bid it at. And so he paid us what we
Thought it was
our moonshot
Yeah,
number.
it's such a funny thing. It was like here, and he was like, "Okay." You're like, "Whoa."
Okay.
And that was enough for me to call Tanner and say, and then have a meeting with him and say, everything's okay here. Quit your job that you're getting paid a good salary
About 50 grand.
and everything's going to be taken care of in the next 6 months because this is enough
Yeah.
money for us to invest everything back into the studio and get bigger, which is a big lesson that we did not take any of that money. We
Yeah.
bought cameras
Yeah,
and gear
lots of
all
cameras.
went right back into the business.
and then paid Tanner because he was still like not fully with us at that time. So
Not very much.
$500 a month
$500 a month.
if you want to know.
Yeah.
Crazy. How'd that feel?
Really crazy.
$500 a
that
month
was-
Quit your job.
at
Here's
23 years
500
old.
bucks.
I will say at the time that happened, I was already like going through a hating phase of my job that I was at. And so I was like, I was going to quit anyways
Yeah.
and then just go find another job somewhere. And then at that same time, I just decided to start doing freelance stuff. And then that's when I had the meeting with Zach and made it work here. So
And we were paying ourselves $800 a month.
Yeah.
And we had quit our jobs. And I was married and had
So
rent.
crazy.
So and that's when we sold our. Is that when you sold your car?
Mm-hmm.
That's when I sold my car. So I
We
was
both
living,
sold our cars.
I was living off of the money I made from selling my car. I had like a decent amount of equity in it, so I sold my car and I had like $13,000, and I would just live off of that pretty much.
And I
Yeah.
had left my job and had like 10.
Yeah. Vivint happened. And pretty much that whole year, we focused on Vivint and we focused on other like odd jobs and Zach's podcast a lot. A lot of time went into Zach's podcast. And then
And we made money on that podcast. So anyone that tells
Yes.
you can't make money on a podcast,
we made about $2,000 a month.
we were
almost from
making
that
money
Yeah.
within 4 months
Yeah.
of that podcast. Fully monetized with ads and merch.
Yeah.
And making money. And
Yes. That was a big part of that. We made a lot of money from the journals.
and we sold journals and we bought 10,000 journals. That's not right. We bought 1,000 journals.
1,000 journals for $10,000.
and we took the risk. This is interesting.
we spent a lot of money on journals. We spent $10,000 on Zach's journals, and that was probably that was probably one of the scariest moments of my life. Was because we took out pretty much like a business loan, like business funding, to pay for the journals, and
no one had bought a single journal
No
yet.
one had bought
we didn't do
anything.
like a pre-save,
Yeah.
anything like that.
our email list. I remember we had an email. This is kind of in the weeds, but we had an email list for Today's the Day for the journals, and a lot of people had signed up for it, and so we were very confident that like they were going to sell out, and we sent out the email that they're ready for pre-order, and like 2 people pre-ordered.
Which is $100.
out of like
So
300
scary.
people, and we had just spent $10,000, and literally I had like a giant panic attack. I was like, we're done, like it's
I
done.
guess we're out of
We can't
business.
do it. Zach's podcast put us out of business. We can't do it anymore. And then
We sold
thankfully,
all the journals.
we sold all the journals. We have 33 left. If you want 33 journals,
Yeah. 33 left.
Crazy.
So anyway, that was we made our money that year from Vivint and Odd Jobs and those journals.
And
But
networking, word of mouth. We've always been bad at social media. We're trying to get better at that. And
this
this
is a part of that.
new branding will be good. And this podcast, of course, will be great for it. But it was just word of mouth and network in doing the best that we could for a really small amount of money
Yeah.
to say, now it's proven and we can do this. So
Yeah.
who else can do this? And that's when we met Casey Baugh. And we built a set for him, and we're going to do a whole episode on how we built that set. But we went from our studio setting up to doing like a full scale $100,000 set,
Yeah.
full of equipment, like the most high end podcast you can do.
Yeah.
Wow. And that was right after Vivint.
That was right after Vivint. So Vivint had just ended. Their contract had pretty much just ended. It was one more month.
Yeah. And then a company called LitJoy started right then too. And it basically unfolded to be like 7 full-time podcasts right after.
Literally, it went from us doing
Vivint.
pretty much nothing. Not nothing, but like we really didn't have like a ton of clients, a ton of retainer clients,
Mhm.
to 7 retainer podcast clients. Like
Yeah.
it was crazy.
Yeah.
It was-
Immediately that month.
Yeah.
Because the month between Vivint ending that year contract and Casey starting, there was no work, and then all of the jobs hit at the same time, and that was 7 retainer clients doing podcasts.
Fully insane. And that was fun and exciting,
And it worked.
and it worked. And then we started making more money, and I'm shocked that we even made it when we only had Vivint.
Yeah, I think a big thing that we did was we didn't change our lifestyle and what we were doing when some money came in.
Yeah. Everything went back into the business.
Everything still mostly goes back into the business.
Yeah. I mean, it's changed a little bit, but for a long time it was, I mean, you should we'll put pictures of this place before and this place now, and it's fully insane. Like,
Crazy.
we've spent a lot of money making this place really nice and making it presentable for people to come record. And we just redid our main set downstairs. So
I think that's important that we're passionate about it, where the money that we would have taken home, we would have bought a lot of the gear anyways. Like, I've invested it back into music equipment, how to make the best audio. I'm interested in that. I'm always educating myself on what is the new gear.
yeah, we would have bought all these cameras anyway.
Yeah, these cameras are what we want to use. Like, this room is set up with Sony's, their FX30s and an FX3. And it's like, that's what we would have wanted to buy anyways.
Yeah.
So investing back into something that we really loved and were passionate about learning and getting our hands on was a big thing. Because if you're doing something that you don't love and it's all going back into that business that you're hoping to get this like giant paycheck.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because along that, we had so much fun figuring out all that stuff. Yes, there was very stressful days, but
Still is.
we set in our mind that we were just going to do it full time, and we've never had a month where we didn't pay our bills. And so that's important too. That, are we millionaires? No. Are we full-time creatives? And is it our career? Yes.
Yeah.
And we did that. We accomplished that. And now let's see how far we can take it.
Millionaires.
Now let's be millionaires and make really cool projects. There's a ton of podcasts that we do, and we still don't want to just be a podcast studio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's a way that worked, and we kind of built that side up of the studio, and that's the first thing
we
that
spent
we're
a
doing.
whole year focusing on that, and it worked.
And now it's time to focus on the next thing. So we've put systems in place to not be doing that as much, but still having those clients.
Yep.
And I think it's important to now focus on what we love doing and being more creative on some different stuff.
Getting back to the root of why we really wanted to do this in the first place. Like you said, talking about the music video, getting back to, like, we loved that, and that felt creative and fun, and how do we do more stuff like that?
And figure out how to get paid.
And get paid for it, which would be the ultimate test.
Yeah.
But that's why we started this podcast, to build a community around people that are in the creative space, that are looking to do jobs like that, and just have fun, realizing there are some stuff that is not as fun and glamorous. But if you want to do it full time, like, if we could figure it out in my bedroom and make it work, then you can do it too.
That year was so important for us to focus on actually proving that we could make money doing this. And now we can focus on building our community that we really want to build, and sharing like how we built this, and
just as we go.
Yeah, just as we go. Because obviously we're not where I don't think we're claiming to be experts on anything. We're still are learning a lot. I don't even know how DaVinci works, and people make fun of me for it.
People being us.
People being these two. And it hurts. It's okay. And so, so just kind of figuring out.
Where we aren't experts, we're going to bring in guests.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the Ty Mars episode is coming out, which was so great. And there's a lot of episodes with guests that are friends of ours that have helped us along that way, that are a couple steps ahead of us. And if we can be helpful to people that are coming up, or along at the same place, and just have a place to talk.
Yeah, if you could just find community in the podcast, and we're your friend.
I want to
Be our friend.
Be our friend.
Be our friend. Tanner, parting words?
Parting words, Tanner.
love you all. Thank you for joining. I'm excited to see where this thing goes. And remember, this is all off the record.
Wow.
So good.
Beautiful.
Hopefully we include it this time.